The Moto G Stylus 2025. Let's talk about it. So the Moto G Stylus 2025, this phone is quite impressive and it's very unique as far as the features that it has. I think a lot of phones out there, they get so stale and boring, and this phone is really bringing something fresh because we do have a stylus in this phone, and that's not all that this phone does provide. It also has an SD card slot. It also has a good water resistance rating. We now have wireless charging. There's a lot of things that this phone provides, even a headphone jack. A lot of those things we don't get in other phones. And I know we used to have the LG Stylo line that we don't have anymore, and there's just not a lot of phones that come with a stylus nowadays. So to see a unique phone like this, even with an eco leather back, you factor all those things in, and I am in love with this phone, and I think it's really good for the right audience. But it's not perfect, but if you look at the retail price, $400, that is the price for the unlocked model from Best Buy. That is going to be a decent value for those people that want certain features, and it doesn't mean it's going to be the right price for everyone. Some of you might want to look at your prepaid carriers and get this phone for free or $100, and some $400. But either way, if you look at the design here, getting a headphone jack on the bottom, getting this nice stylus, the speakers are actually pretty good this year. I know the speakers were not very good on the Moto G Stylus 2024. I'm not saying they're perfect, but they definitely are better than they were in the past, with the speakers on the bottom, of course, and on the top. And I can't say enough about this backing. I love the feel of a leather back. It just feels really, really cool to me, and I like the look of it. Of course, you will have some plastic on the sides, but that doesn't matter too much. You'll probably throw a case on your phone. And I do like how the phone does feel fairly lightweight, at least for a phone with a stylus. It does feel nice and premium, but still lightweight enough to hold and enjoy. But if you look at this phone, what you're gonna find is you're gonna get an amazing AMOLED display. The screen is so good on this phone. It is great. It's a 6.7-inch screen here, a 2712 by 1220 resolution, but you get 120 hertz, nearly 3,000 nits of peak brightness. And I know that's just a peak brightness number that you might rarely see, but man, this display gets plenty bright enough. It looks good. The colors pop with AMOLED. This might not be as good as a $1,000 phone, but this will be a darn good screen for the money, and one of the better screens you're going to find around this price point. I would say that is going to be the star of the show, having a gorgeous display, having a lot of extra unique features. That is really going to make this phone a nice value. Of course, when you get into the phone and get to the performance, that's where it suffers a little bit, but not really. This does have a Snapdragon 6 Gen 3 processor. That's going to be the same processor as the Galaxy A36, but realistically, it feels very fast. In fact, I would say the processor in this feels faster than it does in my Galaxy A36. For whatever reason, it just seems to flow better with Motorola software. Maybe it's because Motorola is a little more optimized and they're a little more like Google, their skin is a little bit lighter than Samsung's. I don't know. I just know this phone feels very, very fast, and it doesn't really slow down whenever I'm multitasking. There hasn't been a lot of moments when I've just wondered, I just wish I had more speed. Why didn't I get more speed? I'm not thinking that in my head at all. Like this phone, it does go fairly quickly whenever I am using it. And with 8 gigabytes of RAM, the RAM is more than good enough, so I am having a good experience, but you do have to admit that the performance, it's not going to be quite as good as you would find in a Google Pixel phone for this price. So even the Tensor processors are going to be a little bit faster than this, and I'm sure if you look around, you will find some other alternatives that are faster, especially if you're looking at international markets. So this won't be the best for gaming, but it will do okay. It's going to be like a mid-range phone where you could have average settings with some games, and you're going to be able to enjoy some Madden or enjoy some basic games like Mario Kart. You're going to have a good experience overall, no matter what you're doing, basketball, football, or even just some racing. You're going to have an overall decent time on the G Stylus. But again, the thing that really sets this phone apart from the competition, it's going to be those extra features. 68-watt fast charging. That's going to be better than you find in a lot of Samsung phones, like even flagship phones from Samsung. They often top out at like 45 watts. So this charging this fast is a really big deal. This has 15-watt wireless charging, a 5,000 milliamp battery. Now, it's not perfect. I would say it's going to be pretty close to the battery life from last year's model, but we do have a decent battery size, so battery life is going to be pretty good on this phone, at least around 5 to 7 hours of screen on time. But getting a fingerprint sensor in the display, that's a really big deal. Wireless charging, a headphone jack, an SD card slot, water resistance. It's an IP68 rating, so that is a really big deal. You're going to get a ton of features that we don't often see around $400 or less, especially if you find this phone on a budget carrier. That is going to be a steal, and this is a nice upgrade. Even though it's subtle, I would say it's a nice upgrade from the Moto G Stylus 2024. The better speakers in this phone, some of the extra little features overall, I just think this is such a good bargain for a lot of people out there. Even the cameras. I know Motorola isn't known for their cameras, but they did upgrade the main camera sensor this year, and it's actually pretty good. This does come with a 50 megapixel main camera sensor and a 13 megapixel ultra wide, but they did actually improve the sensor and make it a little bit better compared to last year's model, and you can really tell with the photos. They are really good. I'm actually noticing a nice upgrade in the quality here. So the camera has been great for taking pictures of my family or taking pictures outside. I've been getting really good shots, and even 4K video. You can get 4K 30 frames per second or 1080p 60 frames per second, but my video quality has been fairly good on here overall. You can't expect flagship level, and I don't think it will be quite as good as a Google Pixel 9, for example, because that does have Google's flagship camera in that phone, but even that phone's gonna cost you a couple $100 more. So to get the camera, the main camera sensor in this, I do think that's a really big achievement that they did actually fit a decent sensor here. It's a Sony Lydia sensor that they put in here for the main sensor if you didn't know. So this phone is going to be terrific, but again, it's not for everyone. This is going pretty close neck and neck with the Google Pixel 9a. And I know the Pixel 9a, it's gonna go on sale, but this might even go on sale to $300 or $250 eventually whenever it really goes down in price. And the Pixel 9a, I will say it's going to be a little bit better as far as the performance, and the camera I would say is 50-50. I would say this actually might have a better camera sensor or pretty close compared to the Pixel 9a. Even though Google is known for their better photos, I would say this is going to be pretty similar to the photos you're going to get from the Pixel 9a. But this is going to have a ton of extra features you won't get from Google, and you're going to pay a little bit more to get that Pixel 9a even if it goes on sale. If you're someone that values a headphone jack, if you're someone that values a stylus, this phone is for you. The stylus experience is good. Now, it doesn't have palm rejection, so that's one issue this phone still has. A lot of people don't talk about that, but if you want to move around the screen while you're drawing, you're going to have to use the two-finger gesture to do it because it recognizes the stylus really the same way it recognizes your fingers, so just keep that in mind. But still, you get a stylus in the phone. You do get a headphone jack, an SD card slot. These are all things that I know a lot of people out there value. If you want a little bit better of performance, maybe you like Google and their software updates, and they do have longer software update support, there are going to be reasons to spend a little more and go with the Pixel. I've got to admit, I don't use a headphone jack nowadays. I just use Bluetooth earbuds. And I don't need an SD card myself. I just use the cloud for a lot of things. But I really like the stylus, so there is a lot to like here, but some people might prefer the speed of the Google Pixel, and it's just going to depend on who you are and what you're looking for. And even if you don't like the stylus, it doesn't really matter if you find this phone for $200 or $250. This is a very, very good mid-range phone that I would highly recommend to anyone, even if you don't need a stylus. But like always, I would say you just have to find out what's right for you. This phone does fit in very well at the price point it's at, and you just have to figure out what you value in a smartphone. But either way, I think Motorola did a good job, and I think if you care about the features that this phone has, well, it's a really, really solid buy. So hopefully this review has helped you out. If it has, just give me a like and give me a sub. That would mean a ton to me. And another way you could help me is to check out some other videos I have, because that's a great way to support. Check the links and check some other videos. And no matter what you're going through in life, I hope you enjoy your day, and I really, really hope you enjoy your week.